Hey everyone, I'm Austin Mann, and today I'm super excited to be talking to you about the Rivian R1T. Now, if you've ever seen my work, it might be in the context of my iPhone camera reviews where I take the new iPhone somewhere in the world to test it in the field. I am a travel photographer. I love working in the adventure space, especially in nature. When the folks from Rivian called and said, hey, would you want to take one of these things for a spin? I thought it was a natural fit because I've been reading about this product. I know that they've really been deeply thoughtful about how do we create a product that gets people outdoors and how do we get them into adventures and think about it in a completely innovative and new way. I came out here to use this product while shooting fireflies. So an image that I've wanted for a really long time and kind of a part of a series of images that I've been creating for over the last decade is different bioluminescence and different natural lights that light up darkness around planet Earth. So everything from glowworms in New Zealand to aurora in Iceland to the fireflies here in the Great Smoky Mountains. So this is a shot I've wanted to create for a long time. I've researched it, and so the peak season for that is right now. There's only about a 10-day window every year where the fireflies get really active. So we lined up this project to use the Rivian R1T to be the platform and the main tool that we use to get all of our gear out to the field, out into the mountains, and we've been in rain and sun and fog and mud and all kinds of stuff, and we've charged all of our equipment, which I can't wait to show you how we've done that, and we've really pushed it to the max. And I'm excited to show you what we've learned over the last few days. So let's just talk about the cockpit and kind of the fit and finish for a second. It is really as good as I've ever experienced. The industrial design is top notch. I love the stitching on the inside, and it's got the flat bottom steering wheel, which I really like. There's a lot less buttons, there's a lot less going on. Everything's controlled through the screen in the middle, which has its pros and cons, but one of the things it does really well is it cleans up the whole experience inside. So it's been a joy to sit in here and to drive hundreds of miles in it. Very comfortable seats, all the memory things, all the fancy stuff that you would expect in a premium luxury vehicle like this are here. There's a few new features that I'm excited to talk about as we continue to go around, but all the basics have kind of met my expectations. Now let's jump into how I've been storing my camera equipment and charging my camera equipment. So when I think about traveling with gear, I think about I need to have my cameras ready to go, but they also need to be safe. So if I have to hit my brakes or if I was in a car wreck, they're not gonna go flying through the front windshield. I don't want them rattling around. And then I also think about, all right, if I'm running inside to a gas station or I'm running into a restaurant or whatever, that it's not in sight. So those are some of my kind of values when I think about traveling with camera equipment and shooting a lot from the car. So I've custom modded some stuff for my Land Cruiser for that, and I want to show you how I've set up the Rivian for use over the last few days. So you're able to actually flip up this back seat, and under that seat you have this kind of trough that's where I've been storing all my equipment. So I've got my big 400 2.8 lens, and this is always a real pain to store kind of anywhere in the Land Cruiser, and now I feel like I can throw it in here and it's nice and safe. And then I've got if I own this vehicle, I'd probably custom make some foam for this space down here, but I've just been putting my down jacket in there to give it a little bit of padding. But I've got both my Sony A1s in here with a wide lens and a tight lens. So I'm kind of ready to go for that. And if I'm really, shooting a lot, I might throw it up here so that I can easily access it from the driver's seat if I need to. But it's not too hard, obviously, to open up and come back here. I've also got my Hasselblad X1D sitting here, just attached to the headrest here. So this gives me kind of multiple layers that I can come in, grab my Hasselblad, be ready to shoot. That's ready to go. Got lenses there, can switch. Got the Sony A1, and all my gear is safe here. I've got tripods here this is very similar to how I have things set up in the Land Cruiser. And then I also keep my laptop here. I can access it from the front seat if I need to. And then for night, I've got both my headlamps here, so I can just quickly grab a headlamp. One of my favorite things about this setup is how discreet it is. So I'm always covering my gear in the Land Cruiser with like a blanket or whatever, but in this case, this seat closes down over. There you go. So now all my gear, and I would also put the Hasselblad in there, is what I've been doing, is under this seat. So it's completely out of sight. It's, you know, you'd have to know that that compartment exists, and you'd have to check it to find equipment in there. But I feel pretty safe about that. And then also there's a new gear guard feature that Rivian has installed on this that I'll talk about a little bit later. So I feel really good about that. It's also really secure. I know it's not gonna go flying, so if I'm doing a bunch of off-roading or whatever, I can just cover this to give me another sense of security. All right, so now let's talk about power. So this is, I think, by far the most substantial advantage that this vehicle offers is the ability to keep a shoot like this one powered. We have two Sony A1s, Hasselblad X1D, Mavic 3 Cine, Ronin 4D, headlamps, MacBook Pros, iPhones, all kinds of other gear. And we've charged all of that gear for 4 days through this vehicle. There's USB-C ports everywhere. I tried to count them, and I need to check the manual. There's so many. I think there's like 10. There's also multiple traditional wall outlets. There's also cigarette lighter power. There's power everywhere. I've got it up here in the headrests. We've got it in the back. We've got it up, two more up front. And one of my very favorite feature, I'll show you in a minute, up in the shotgun seat. So let's talk about how I've kind of gotten the power from this giant battery, which, by the way, I did the math on. It's a 135 kilowatt battery, which is like the equivalent of, I think it was like 675 Goal Zero batteries that are slightly smaller than like a car battery. So put that in perspective for a second. Every time you roll out off the grid to somewhere that doesn't have power, you're rolling hundreds and hundreds of Goal Zero, you have power of any power banks, and you're able to tap into that power to charge your gear. That's huge. I mean, especially when you're out camping. I'll be the first to admit that I have had to run my car for a while with the inverter on to get gear charging, and I hate just idling with gas. But sometimes I gotta get something charged. I'm completely out because I've been off grid for too long and whatever. In this case, we've got a giant battery and we barely even tap it. Overnight when we are charging all that equipment that I just told you, it's like, it affects the range like by just 1 to 3%. And that's amazing. You do need to keep in mind that it does affect the range, and you can't just do that forever, and you've got to keep the thing charged, which is the challenge off the grid, candidly. But that's my favorite feature that's completely different in using an electric truck versus a traditional gas-powered truck. So what we've done is we've wired power into this center station. I've got my MacBook Pro charger. I don't know if we'll be able to see this or not, but I've got my Sony A1 batteries. I'm using cup holders to store my batteries. I've got the X1D batteries charging, and they're all kind of here in this like center console. It's been easy to organize, just keep things powered at all times. It's been really nice, and that's actually wired from the gear tunnel. And I'll show you how we do that once we get to the other side. And I also I had this, which is just funny. Before I came on this trip, I ordered this traditional, cigarette lighter to USB and USB-C. It's like, oh, I'm gonna need power. Little did I know, I mean, what an old way of thinking. I don't need it. I never even use this. Every time I see it, I laugh. I'm like, man, I didn't need that thing. Okay, let's move on from gear storage, power, and another feature that you may be familiar with, but one of my favorites, is the gear tunnel. So this kind of all works together more than I expected it to, and it's obvious that the they've been deeply thoughtful about how this works as a table, as a step, and for storage. So in this case, what I find myself doing a lot, especially when shooting out of the car, is I'll come over here, I'll open this thing. I've got this kind of table space that's actually super convenient to be able to throw a camera down on while I'm prepping something. So I might say, oh, okay, I want to change lenses. Let's put that there, and then let's, you know, grab the big lens. And I've got this like working space that makes it super simple to switch. Now I've got my 400 on and gears back in a safe spot, and I'm ready to go. Boom. That's not something I can do in the Land Cruiser. I don't have that kind of space right behind my door. I can do it out the back, but I really like having everything integrated right here. And so it means a lot of times when the light's perfect or you see wildlife or whatever, you don't have a lot of time to jack with things, and having the extra space right here has been a kind of an unexpected game changer for me. But also I've been storing my camera bag in here. So I'll pull out my camera bag for like maybe lenses that I'm not currently using, cleaning, other stuff. And again, I've got this nice flat space. I'm not putting this on the ground or putting it on top of my camera gear. There's plenty of horizontal space here that I'm not used to having on most platforms. So this gear tunnel actually goes all the way through, and it's been super convenient. They do make I think they call it a gear shuttle that slides out. And so you can put everything that you want on it, slide it all the way out. I think it goes out the other side. And they also have a camp kitchen that slides out of it, which is something I'd love to experiment with in the future. So that's gear tunnel and kind of how I use it. Last way that it gets used, that I've used it a lot, is standing on it, whether to get a higher perspective as a photographer on a scene, or just to get up here, get up to the top and get a higher perspective, you know, do anything on the tent that I need to. It's really nice to have a step. Another detail that I appreciate is just the handle design and the crossbar here. One, having the handle at all, but just the fit and just the way it feels really strong, secure, and comfortable. And it's just an indicator that the team has been thoughtful about what are all the ways that this could be used, how do we make it look good and also work well. That's something I'm always emphasizing as I think about my own products and choices in gear. Is I want something that looks good and works good. And that's kind of a theme that I kind of generally experience on the Rivian R1T. Still trying to figure out how some of the stuff works, and have had some frustrations with the equipment, but in general, I love these little details where everything works just the way it should. I want to get up on top, I put my foot here, where do I grab? Oh, perfect, there's a handle for me. Very natural. You know, this is grippy. If it's wet, it's still going to be grippy. The team has really thought about all these things, and I really appreciate it. Okay, so let's talk about the truck bed. So I drive an SUV, and I always have driven an SUV instead of a truck because I'm always wanting as much interior, climate controlled, weather sealed, and secure space as possible. Now what they've done as they've designed the Rivian R1T is they've really successfully made a lot of interior style space. It's not climate controlled, but it is secure and it is weather sealed, including the truck bed. So let's look at the truck bed. So we've got this tonneau cover that came from the factory, and it's controlled here, and it's a metal cover that you click this button, completely closes. It's weather tight, and you can hear it. It's metal. It would be very difficult to break into this space. It also can, I mean, I don't know what it's rated at, but it can support a lot of weight. You can at least stand towards the edges. And that means that this whole space in here is secure and weather tight, which is awesome. So let's open it up. We've used this space for some of our bigger bags. The tailgate opens up really nicely. It's got again, like a nice large tailgate space. You know, just for context and disclaimer, I don't drive a pickup. I have never really driven a pickup much. I don't have a lot of experience, so I know a lot of this is not like fresh in the pickup world, but this is how it works with the R1T, and it's definitely fresh to me as an SUV owner, because it kind of makes me wonder, like, oh, well, maybe a pickup truck has more usable space for me than I thought, and it also has some perks that I don't get with the SUV. So one of the things that I like about the way that the Rivian team has thought about gear security and continued the gear guard is this cable that they have back here. So if this is the gear guard security cable, which there's two ends. There's another end like this that's in the side here, and I can run it through a piece of equipment. So let's say I run it through this if I wanted to, or I could run it, you know, down here to a bike, run it back up, and if I have something secured at the campsite or whatever, and then when I put this in, it'll lock. Whenever I lock the car, that will also lock. And you know, that's not high security. It's someone could get through this fairly easily if they had the right tools, but it is going to prevent someone from just, you know, peeking over into your truck and grabbing whatever they want. The other cool thing about the way that the gear guard security cable and gear guard in general works is that if somebody does approach the vehicle while it's locked, the cameras, which are everywhere around this vehicle, will start to record whatever activities are happening, and then you can see that later. But also, if they start to try handles and they really start to mess with the vehicle, then it'll send you a push notification, at least in theory. We haven't really been able to test this because we've been off grid. So if you're on grid and everything's set up properly, you will get a notification in your Rivian app on your smartphone that tells you, like, hey, someone's jacking with your car. And you can go check it out. So if you're inside at a restaurant or you're inside shopping, getting something in town or whatever, you've got that kind of peace of mind. And you know, my wife and I, we spent a lot of time on the road. I think we were on the road over 100 days last year, pulling our Airstream all over the country, working on shoots throughout different national parks and just all over our beautiful country. And one of the things that we think about a lot is security and gear. And there's a little bit of anxiety when you go inside and you have all of this expensive equipment out there and you don't want it to get stolen. And so all of these extra measures of security kind of give you a peace of mind. And this is, that gear guard kind of monitoring system is something that I would have a really hard time. It's not available on my current setup, and I'm not even sure if I could pay to have an upgrade like that. That's just a really interesting feature that that I don't have, that I really appreciate. So let's close this guy. All right, so last night, and a couple times, but especially last night, we got absolutely hammered by rain. Everything got drenched. So I've currently just been kind of drying off everything, hanging it in the sun. And this is the rooftop tent that Rivian collaborated with Yakima on. Nothing super interesting about the tent. It's pretty standard if you know their tents, but you can get it when you order the Rivian R1T from the factory. This is an additional add-on, which is something I appreciate. It just shows me, okay, from the very beginning, we're thinking, how do we make this a well-accessorized adventure vehicle? And that's something that my current platform in the Land Cruiser, I've got bajillions of accessory potential from all over the world that can do almost everything because it's such a well-known platform. And I appreciate that they started and said, all right, well, what are the key things that we need to work well from the beginning? And one of those was the rooftop tent. So I've been sleeping in here. It's super comfy, packs up really fairly easily, and I also think it looks great. I like the color and how it complements the gray. And it deploys, like, I can deploy it in about 2 minutes or so after I've parked wherever my campsite is. Got this nice little ladder here. So moving on from rooftop tent, let's take a look at the gear tunnel from this side. So the gear tunnel goes all the way through, and it's exactly identical on both sides as far as I can tell. So you've got a step here if you need it, same little handle I was mentioning, And this is where you also have your 120 volt or just household wall outlet. And what we've done here is, you can see we are a pretty power hungry production. So we have this plugged into one of the wall outlets. We've got a bajillion USB-Cs and micro USBs. And we have charged the DJI Mavic here, the DJI Ronin 4D. We've also got a power extension that's running up to the front here that's giving us all of our charge on our Sony and X1D batteries and all that stuff. So this is kind of like powered up headquarters. So when we need fresh batteries or we need to throw batteries on charge, it's here or here. And that's worked out really well. This stuff stays secure in there. And if you have a look, you can look all the way through and see that it passes all the way through. So this is a lot of extra functional space. Again, going back to what I was saying about why I've always avoided a pickup is because I just don't feel like I never really thought about how much potential interior type space there could be. And this is a space that is secure, it's locked, completely weather tight, and it's usable for all kinds of stuff. So, you know, it's kind of reframed the way I've thought about how much interior space a pickup could have that goes beyond the kind of traditional cab. So one little note on security also is when the vehicle is unlocked, the handles stay out. When it locks, the handles go flush. Not anything groundbreaking. We've seen this in other vehicles before. I like it from a security perspective and just from a communication perspective, because when we're working on a production and we leave the vehicle, we both have a visual on, is the car locked or not? Instead of asking like, hey, did you lock it? You can look and see, is it locked or not? Because if this is flush, then you know it's locked. If it's out, you know it's unlocked. Little details that make a difference to me and how I think about our commercial photo and film production out here. So one of the crazy things that I still can't wrap my mind around is the functional space under this hood. So of course, as it's electric, there's no engine up here, and we just have a ton of extra storage space. Secure, waterproof storage space. So right now there's kind of a bottom to it, a flooring, but you can take this flooring out and it's all plastic and it's also waterproof. So it's been said that you can actually use this as a giant cooler. You can fill it with ice and put food and drinks and whatever in there, which would be really great, especially if you're car camping just for a few days over the weekend or whatever. The one fluid you do need to keep up with is your windshield wiper fluid, which is here. And so that's about as complicated as it gets for traditional car maintenance from the owner. Oh, so one other feature that I want to tell you about that I have just really appreciated, I just heard this bird chirping overhead, and it sounds so much like the locking sound for the R1T. So I really appreciate that when you lock this vehicle, it's not a beep, it's something that integrates with the natural world. I actually even tried to use my bird sound ID to identify what kind of chirp it is. And I don't know if I can do it with all the windows open or not. I don't know if you heard that, but it sounds almost exactly like the bird that's in that tree right there. And I love that. I mean, I can hear it. I know that I've locked the doors, but also it's not creating sound pollution. And you know, when we come in here at night, it's like late at night, everyone's sleeping. When I lock my car or unlock it, sometimes you're doing that a million times. And with my current vehicle, it's like beep, beep, as soon as I open it. And I always am trying to not lock or unlock my car at night because it's so obtrusive to the world around me. And I love how naturally integrated this is and just what that means about how they thought about this product and its role in the natural world. Now let me take you back into the cabin here and show you just a couple more features that I really like. So here I've got a wireless charger. So you put your smartphone here, it'll charge it. I also like to be able to plug into the USB-C to charge a little bit more quickly. So there's two USB-C ports that are built into the center console. Nice little channel to run the cable out here. And you can close these, keep everything charged. But one of my favorite features, one of the just coolest integrations I think of this entire vehicle is the way that they've built in this smart speaker. So this is a wonderfully sounding speaker that you can take out to your picnic table at your campsite or take with you anywhere. It's not one that you would hike with, it's pretty heavy, but because it's heavy, it's also a huge battery. So what I've been doing is, you know, it lives in this dock here, and so it's always charging. It's got contacts back there, so it's always charging from the vehicle. It's always at 100% as long as your vehicle isn't at 0. And you can pull it out. You've got a nice USB-C port right there. So you can grab really quickly and easily your USB-C cable to charge your phone. And I've been, you know, every night I've been taking it back, going up into my tent, throwing it in there and using this for juice in the tent. I just love that integration. I don't have to think about, is that battery charged? Is my power bank charged? My power bank's always charged around the campsite, and it's really nice to, you know, we have this resource in this vehicle called power, and it's accessible in so many different ways, lots of different places. It's mobile power, it's power everywhere. And I'm a really power heavy, you know, passionate technologist and creator. And I love having this as my platform to create from because of how powerful it is. And then lastly, I want to show you something on the other side that we accidentally skipped over, which is I'm, as I mentioned, really passionate about lighting, and especially lights that illuminate darkness. And I just love this little feature here with this flashlight built into the door. We used it last night, actually, for the first time. We approached this campsite at night and we were trying to figure out which campsite was which, but you just push in and this flashlight comes out, and it's 1,000 lumen. Again, always charged flashlight that you can access really easily, and nice and bright, easy to use. Difficult to access while driving, impossible, but very usable around the campsite to know you always have a flashlight there that's charged and ready to go. Okay, so this thing is jam-packed with a bunch of really fun, innovative, and fresh new features, but it does come with its challenges, namely just keeping the thing charged, especially when you're adventuring off the grid like this. I mean, we're out of cell signal, we're super far from any sort of power source, and keeping it charged gives you a little bit of anxiety. Like, what if I run out when I'm out in the field? I can't just go get a 5-gallon gas tank and top it off. And I can't also plug it into just a generator or a house outlet somewhere. Like, I need a proper charger. So you know, I think that kind of anxiety will continue to lessen with time. The Rivian's charging network is going to be in all kinds of places like this all over the country. There's also slower chargers that are fairly, you know, well distributed around the country, but you have to plan for that. You really have to think about it. It requires a radically different way of thinking. But I appreciate that, you know, that's really been Rivian's focus with this product, is how do we get power where it needs to be so people can use these new technologies, these new capabilities to empower off-road adventure and have, you know, meaningful experience with those that you love outdoors. And, you know, it's been a really successful tool for us over these last 4 days. We've driven it all through the Great Smoky Mountains. We've been in rain and fog and mud and everything in between. And ultimately, we've had a really successful shoot. We've gotten to see the fireflies, experience those. I have created some photographs of the fireflies that I'm really proud of. And it's the Rivian R1T that transported us here safely, kept all of our gear charged, and ultimately gave us an amazing experience out here. And so it's been such a joy. I'm definitely considering this for myself in the future. And I'm just overall excited about what this means for the future of electric vehicles in general. And we're off to the airport now, and I'm sad to be saying goodbye to the R1T, but hope to see it again in the near future.